To je to. Da vidimo šta se događa. Brzi deci, jebote kurac. Brzi, jesi ti normalan? Jeli brzi se drogiraš ili šta? Čavki 1.94, šark luka 52 i 6 loše. Čavki 1.94, over 80 iz 10, over je završio. Over je završio. Over je završio, luka, boga mi, loše. 52 i 6, ček da vidim match history, 30 i 0, 44, 26 i 0, sve. Evo ovdje dobar game i ovdje solidan game, ovo sve loš, 4 gejma loše. 4 gejma loše, ovdje su uzeli nešto poena i to je to. Možda se probudi šark luka, vidjet ćemo. Daj da vidimo ovamo ovaj... Da vidimo upper bracket šta se dešava. Ko ovo igra, majke ti? Marek Smilenko, Druman. Ovo niko ne igra, brate. Ovo niko ne igra, niti koga interesuje, brate. Ajmo mi sad na upper bracket, pa ćemo da probamo da nađemo luku u game. Da probamo da nađemo luku u gameu, idemo na upper bracket. Da vidimo šta se dešava.
Won that game, got away from brutal, but that's something that we talk about week after week, major after major in these formats, to where when one team wins, it does open up a spot, but when multiple teams have that same idea, perfect example of what happens.
Uh-oh. The slow patience, is it gonna pay off for Tarps and his duo partner here as Volko and Cringe? All it would take is that one decision to, you know what, let's get a bit of extra loot. Let's go up to the rooftop. There's some floor spawns. Little do they know, that could lead to their demise.
Svizi, Vanja, Kvinjali, Mapi, Hero I Dande Puzovi.
But they're being cautious though.
They know
They're
they're
putting
getting
walls down, they're pre-building. You can never be too safe.
Snezi podasaj.
And that's what you get from experience in these
Stormi
lobbies.
18.
They did it for 2
Gujki
floors so
Stormi
far.
18, jej.
They do it
You
for
need to be
free,
safe
yeah.
on the third floor. Like if they just
Gujki
walk up
Stormi
there and some big
18.
shots get landed.
Oh.
Au.
Yeah, I get it. In everybody's house, you don't put anything important in the attic.
That's crazy though. They went up 2 floors.
Gujki Stormi 18, to je
And out of, I don't
odlično.
know if it's pure luck or what, they decided, you know what? We don't go to the attic. Pop the nitro splash, continue with the rotate. I don't think they had a
Kami
clue that there was a
23.
duo up top above them, but those are
Kvizi
things only we're gonna know
40,
now.
ovo ne valja,
Us in the
brate,
chat.
ovo ne valja.
It's a quick reminder.
28, 1, 39, 1, 22,
Same
0.
format basically to day
Ne
one, where
valja.
5 duos will qualify directly to the grand finals through a victory royale. And if you're unable to do that,
Tenis
you have to get top
7.
20 or top 25, including the game winners, on the leaderboard to maintain your spot in the upper bracket for tomorrow. If you're coming from the lower bracket, it's being played out at the same time right now with even more duos. All you got to do is get top 30, and then you will also move to tomorrow in the
Daj da
upper bracket.
idemo u lower bracket da vidimo.
You know, we saw that threshold move pretty hastily yesterday in the last game. Right now, it currently sits at 46 points. So I got to imagine if you find yourself 100, 110 points, you're a lock for tomorrow's upper bracket. And you can kind of play a little bit more loosely, a little bit more flexible in these last two games. Try things out, go for that high ground, get those big wins, because that's what we've seen throughout the majority of these games is the multiple players battling it out for that high ground. Sometimes the low ground wins out, but more times than not, we've been seeing some big victories come out of the high ground.
Are we getting another southern zone here, Jacob? Another south pole? Yesterday was all about north zones. Now it's looking a lot more like a south zone type of day.
Ristek 48, brate, ali dobro 168. I 6 ovdje bili treći sa 5, to nije loše.
Which means, like you were talking about, you mentioned a few times as well, if the zones continue to pull towards the south or near these cactuses in general, it's just going to increase that storm surge threshold. And I feel like if you're one of those teams that lands towards the north side of the map and you're not like Queasy and Thomas rotating towards the south, you're putting yourself at a major disadvantage on these south zones.
And if you're new here, you're like, what are these two weird people talking about? Storm surge damage, what's going on? It's a mechanic here that's seen a lot in these competitive tournaments where there's a minimum damage threshold that you have to reach depending on the zone you're in. It's how much damage you
Shark Luka 90, upravo bio 11 iz 2.
You're gonna end up losing HP per second. For Kovacs,
Shark
though, and his
Luka
duo
90.
partner, they might not have to worry about it if they can get
Ali ima još 3
eliminations. On the
gama.
other hand, if they get eliminated here, they're only gonna have one more shot, one more opportunity to qualify in the last match.
Oh, that was a much needed push towards the top. Huddy's just had a sliver of HP, getting nervous, running around. Now both of them are weak. Piece control goes on over. Vico continues to advance in, but he's taking it step by step, piece by piece, trying to get it underneath his control. And he knows now he has to be careful. That third-party team has now moved over on into the distance, and they're fighting for a possible bunker here in the future. If you guys are wondering what is causing a lot of this commotion.
Shots continue to come through, getting that real estate to make sure there's no surprises as you continue to push on forwards. But I believe Emil and his duo partner have already disengaged from the situation, so the bunker looks like it is going to be for Flixie and Vico. Or wait. Wait a minute.
But wait, there's more. They're just kind of hiding. I'm not sure Vico and Flixie are going to take the bait that they actually ran away. Yeah, you probably still see and hear the footsteps above, but you have to know that the way this fight went down, you got to know how much damage you actually put down. That they shouldn't be brave enough to go down there, and if they do, you're at a massive advantage due to the damage differential.
Yeah, what we've seen happen sometimes is once players know there is a duo in the bunker, they can choose to kind of hold them on the outskirts of it, but they don't have enough HP to do that, in my opinion. It would just be too risky at this point. They don't even have as much loot as Flixie and Vico, so it's almost just asking to get eliminated, which is why they decided to disengage. Flixie even got some shots onto them.
Okay, now they get the choice here because of all the gold, and they can now upgrade all their weapons with their attachments. Even though they don't necessarily need the scopes, because you see the purple DMR right there, which is going to come with one. If they don't like it, if it's a thermal and they want a 4X, or if it's a 4X and they want a thermal, they now have more than enough gold to go ahead and upgrade what they need. Probably adding an extra couple of shots to the gatekeeper, the laser onto the thunderburst, the recoil.
Poslije ću da ga uzmem. Sad je
so
Coca-Cola,
brate. See where these guys are getting their loot off spawn and then just kind of packing a punch.
Sad je Coca-Cola posle Energy, brate.
The Chapentini kind of like to play those shots from afar, but it looks like they've kind of based up on their surge base here. Dexy and Eclipses.
Šta ima, Beki?
I'm wondering what the ultimate game plan from this is going to be.
I'm almost wondering if that forecast tower even spawned on that side of the map.
Yeah, it is
how quickly Chapentini are over here. Yes, the zone is moving over, but typically when they have that forecast tower, they stagger themselves so far back. They're not afraid to stay in the zone around a couple of those launch pads that they use to base up. And then from there, they kind of rotate in. So coming in early, it's not confirmed just yet, but I do feel like they're lacking the forecast tower in this game.
Sada zapalimo cigaru i da uživamo malo.
We seen quite a lot of them
Šteta
today.
za Luku, brate, majke.
Still unable to secure that victory royale
Po
though.
tebi svi dobro, svi, brate.
15th place on the
Svi.
leaderboard so far, so they're
Juče
kind of on
bili
the
malo na
mid-range
bazenu,
of
au,
qualifying
Hen,
for that upper
brate,
bracket.
101. u
Not
loweru.
entirely safe, but
Hen u
not
loweru,
in true
101,
danger
brate,
yet.
122
With
iz
one
8
elimination, you can
gameova.
see they know it's still not enough as they're looking to see if there's any players in the surrounding area, but they do have launch pads around them that they can use to rotate later on.
Ne valja. Shark
Because how well they played
97.
so far throughout these
Dosta, bre,
3
pa i ko
games. I know they're in
dosadan
their
si,
fourth
brate,
now.
moj.
92 points. They're well above that threshold for that top 25 on the
Loše.
leaderboard. So they have the upper bracket spot
Loše,
secured. So with these next 2 games,
loše.
I want to see them maybe make a play for a high ground later on in the game. We know they've done it once before, didn't work out for them, but I don't want that to kind of scare them away from trying to contest it. Because we saw last game,
Loše.
nobody really contested that high ground, which made for an easy end game for Swizzy and Banya.
Stillion here at Mount Olympus.
Zvezda igra za 40 minuta. S kim
Duo,
igraš, šta
like
igra?
disengagement
Nemam
is going to come
pojma.
through. Nothing too aggressive yet. Kind of a relaxed
Futbol.
part of the match so far.
Počela liga, a
interesting
da,
I've seen
počela je
from
prva liga.
These South Poles is players like Cami and Seti, who were first place in terms of total time spent inside of the storm on day 1. Now all the way down to
Gujki
28.
Stormi se
as
drže
we're getting so
odlično,
many
ej.
of these southern zones
Gujki
close to their
Stormi
drop
se
spot.
drže odlično. Bili
This
su
also might make
treći
it a
sa
bit more
1.
difficult to get kind of those
19.
freer rotates
2 su umrli na landu, ajde
using the
kažeš.
cactuses, using the storm. So it kind of shows that sometimes you might not even want
Kvizi Tomas
specific zone
loši,
pulls.
brate.
Continue though, being a duo that is more than comfortable in the
Protiv
zone right now.
jedinstva.
Kind of scraping together for some loot. Just judging by the gray gatekeeper, I feel like this might be one of those games where they didn't get anything. They didn't get their bunker. They didn't get their forecast tower. So now we get a chance to really see them perform with less, but at the same time, you know, I was completely wrong, and I'll admit I'm wrong. The DMR, the Flowberry Fizz, that's a clear giveaway. Forecast tower. It's a clear giveaway. They do have forecast towers, so you know, proud to admit I'm wrong there on that occasion.
You know, you never know, Jacob. Maybe just got lucky, pulled it out of a chest. Ooh, look at this. A lot of sneaky plays that we've seen
Cringe umro.
throughout this tournament. Sometimes it's
Cringe
what you
umro
got to
ovdje.
do. We saw Mercy.
Da Luka ima paket loss, ljudi. Da Luka ima paket loss opet kao juče. 100 pinga i 30 paket lossa. Juče bilo ceo dan. Da li je danas ponovo, brate?
There's not too much going down all around. Few players on top of Rift Island. A good number of them positioned underneath. Likely waiting to use the rifts just like this, but he's going to be by himself. He has a good amount of information as he floats on over. And the fact that he's not taking shots has to give him even more information that there might not be a lot of teams positioned over here. So if he's looking for a reboot, sooner is better than later, because the more this zone closed, the more everybody's going to be stacked around, and the less of a chance, even if he does get the reboot, that his teammate will survive.
2 eliminations for Colbier. I'm wondering if this is the same. They went up against the same duo we saw previously in Mount Olympus. There was a lot of action in this area of the map.
I wonder what they're looking for, but just all that fallen loot. There was another team fishing with the EMPs over here. I wonder if they possibly got crash padded
Evo ga
on.
kviz, evo ga kviz.
Theory craft in there, because now they get all that loot and some. As Thomas and Queasy, thanks to their early rotation out of classy courts, they're still able to move past this portion of the zone, because you saw moments ago when I was talking about that solo, a lot of open space. The same thing could be said here for Queasy and Thomas. They not only need to plan their rotation perfectly, they need to time it right, because there is a duo right above them in that path towards the top of the mountain.
Yeah, and Thomas and Queasy is a duo that is playing more for that victory royale, being in for the 40th place right now. They're not even in the upper bracket for tomorrow. They have a lot of points that they need to secure if they want that. And lower bracket is not where you want to be, so if anything, they're looking to see if they can take home one of
Daj
these
mi
last two
seri da mu je bio
matches.
reloadan, već bi bio u granicima
For Nine
kvizi.
and Della,
Da mu je bio, da je pucu onog lika. Kako je bio drugi, ne razumem, brate.
quite consistent towards the late game, but haven't quite been able to
Ten je ubio
fully
Nathana.
finish the job.
CT Martini taking down Nathan in the feed. Fanai and Adela just trying to get a couple more shots when it comes to surge. They're outside of the zone, but they also know a couple other teams are going to have to rotate along with them. And that's what they're using as an opportunity. But same thing could be said for them. Fanai takes a quick little shot as he finally peeks out to try to rotate.
SZB je umro I Nathan je umro, to sam vidio, ubio ga Teni.
Replenishing some of those resources and vital resources that they need. If you look at Fanai's material count, so low.
Gotta be careful as now the pressure from zone is on the backside.
5 buildova čovek ima, brat.
The zone isn't small enough to have the focus on them.
5 buildova čovek
in
ima.
the surrounding area. Gunbree actually getting cracked here. Kira seems to be the one. That's the fresh ingredients in the sandwich of both players. Clownsky and Axe Force now making use of that Rift Island, the rifts, the launch pads to rotate towards zone, but only being 61 above, now 2 above, you'd hope that they position themselves close to other duos, which is exactly what they've done here.
This is just another one of those positions where you can't really build the full wall because of the environment that's already built there. It is a little bit of a half wall. You can kind of tell that it's edited, causing a little bit of struggles for them to try to reposition themselves inside of that house. But they made it towards the front side of the zone, or at least on the edge. So a lot of those teams behind them, they're going to get a chance to look back. As you check on board, Cammy and Seti switching up their play styles drastically from day 1 to day 2. And day 1, they were first in total time spent in the zone. Now they're around 28.
Ide, kolega, ide. Loše za naše, loše za Balkan. Ali ide, brat.
Now with a lot of teams
danas loše.
Are the bases for the cactuses, the surge that they're able to get.
Juče odlično, danas loše.
From what they've learned through day 1.
Ima iz mog tima jedan mali, ali loše mu ide. Juče imao 30% paket losa internet I 150 pinga, brate, ništa nije uradio juče. Danas isto loše. Ima šanse, još uvijek ima šanse, imaju šanse danas I sutra. Ali ovaj iz mog tima, Balkanci imaju šanse. Ovaj iz mog tima ima šanse još samo danas. Ako uspe danas, uspe. Joj, kako mu je prišao. Umro Lamin Jamala, jesi vidio? Gledaj, bere, umro Lamin.
Yeah, Floppy just trying to go in. Phase through the builds just a little bit. Luckily, Slovey was not only able to get out, but get himself a full box on the other
Mora
side.
si umro kad se zoveš Jamal, mora da si umro, brat.
In his inventory to replenish, so he has to get there rather quickly. And it's a huge chunk of damage, 5 per second that he is deep into that zone. 62 above the threshold. Floppy's not done with you just yet, and he enacts revenge on the Slovey for taking down his teammate.
Bero! Znači u 8:30 sastanak, još sat vremena, a? Šta li će Gogi da kaže, jeli? Stefan neće ni da se pojavi. A Gogi šta će da kaže, ne znam, brate.
Just a neat little find there on ammo. Accidentally breaking one of those big ammo crates. 49 above. They do have some elevation, which means they could stagger themselves back just a little bit, let a couple of these other teams overtake them on the rotation, and then they can crash pad their way towards zone since they're not too far off, and it does look like
moj Bero, što me neće sreća u pekovima I u exchange-u. Neće pa neće, brate. Jebem ti Manjana, jebem ti I Musijalu, ni jedan ni drugi mi ne trebaju, brate. I još nekog sam pekovo, odmah mi je otišao u exchange, zaboravio sam I ko je. Zaboravio sam I ko je, brate. Idu pičku, mati. Što me neće, brate. Dobio sam I Manjana I Musijalu, ni jedan ni drugi mi ne prave 105 overall. Ni jedan ni drugi mi ne prave 105 overall. Jeli, Bero, ti se razumeš u ovu mehaniku, brate, u ovo... U igricu, brate. Čekaj da ti pokažem nešto. Pošto se ti razumeš u tu mehaniku, brate, igrice,
which is going to work out for them. You see the zone pulling towards the south, but it is going to be
da
an
ti ja
eastern pull as
pokažem
well, which
nešto.
means they have a clear line of sight with very few duos. They just need to be able to survive
Da
this
mi
lobby
kažeš
focus, which
ti-
has been happening them far too often in games like these, especially in the big moments.
Da mi
But Thomas, I
kažeš
think,
ti,
has had
brate,
enough. He
šta
gets
i
a
kako.
knock onto one. Queasy running around helps him on the other side. They get the full-on duo wipe out of the lobby, but the pressure hasn't slowed down just yet. And they're going to be able to survive, Takata.
Can
This
this
could
be
be the
it?
moment.
The moment we've been waiting for. Can they turn those tables around? From issues in the early to mid game, not able to fully make it to the late game. Thomas HD and Queasy now have one shot, an opportunity from 40th place
Bero.
on the leaderboard to now the potential
Neće,
of
brate.
taking home a victory royale. That's the best part
A
of these
otvorio sam
semifinals,
pre
no matter how bad
11
they've been
dana.
doing throughout the day. All it takes
Otvorio sam
is
pre
one victory
11 dana.
royale. Great crash pad rotate into zone. Thomas actually got knocked.
I sad ne mogu.
Queasy, do you
Da
have
li
time?
to
Please tell me
znači
you do.
da
4 HP.
mogu za 11 dana 1.8. da otvorim ponovo?
This is like dreams and
Znači
nightmares
to je
all at
sigurno
once.
za
Dream to
11
stay
dana
alive, a
ponovo.
nightmare what just
Majku
happened,
im
but they
jebem
still
u
find a way.
pičku lopovsku.
600 damage above the threshold.
Majku
Storm Surge is
im
not
jebem
gonna be a worry
lopovsku
from
u
here on
pičku.
out, but if you look at their position,
Ko
they're
da
like stuck
čeka
in a little
11 dana,
crevice
jesi
underneath the
lud,
mountain.
brat.
If it continues to pull up towards that mountainside, which is the south, the eastern part of the map, and even towards the north, it is going to be a hurtful situation to
Jebem
be
li
in,
majku,
but they
ko da
get
čeka
blessed. A
11
little bit of
dana.
a southwest pull, which means they have a little bit
Mnogo
of
je,
pressure that's
brate.
going to ease up.
Little bit of time, but you got to be careful because it looks like Cringe and Volko are in desperate need of
Mnogo
surge.
je,
And
brate.
look at that duo that's ahead of them.
Veliki
Queasy and
sportski
Thomas
pozdrav
HD
za
in the
brata
crevice.
Vuka.
Both duos
Vidio sam
having
te
to
na
rotate
streamu od FIFA,
as they
Vuče.
decide to tank a bit of storm damage and make it into zone while Cringe
Vidio
and
sam
Volko
te da
now
si tamo.
are in desperate need of
Je li
damage.
Bero, al sam isprozivo taleta, brate. Bero, al sam isprozivo taleta, brate moj.
They're below the threshold. Yeah, it might only be 5, but that does the same damage regardless. And they're looking for opportunities. Roban just comes charging in, takes down Cridge, forcing the med kit usage out of Volko a lot earlier than he'd hoped to use it.
No crash pads, nothing to get him back into zone. He's going to have to try and sprint in, but will he make it? I don't think he can. Another med kit is going to be forced to be popped. This isn't even a heal off. This is just survival.
Yeah, the only chance he has right now is to find any cactuses, because the med kit's not even going to save you in this situation. He cannot go to zone.
Treba.
Seconds are left, and he goes down in 19th place.
Treba,
Valiant
Bero.
effort for them, but they're leaving it to the last and final game to try to get their ticket to the grand finals.
So far, height is going to be claimed by Joe Kaido. Thomas HD, Queasy still up down below. Queasy actually having picked up an elimination. Vico and Flixi as well looking incredibly strong down on
Top
low.
16 ljudi. Ten je umro, Čap je umro. Ne znam gdje je Queasy. Ne znam ni da li je živ, nisam pratio. Dobre energije, dobre tekme, baš dobre tekme bile, baš dobre, brate. Tvrdu pičku. Queasy živ, ubio Pixa. Queasy živ.
But Pixie is down below the threshold. Even with the most damage done in game number 1, his job is not over just yet. With 3 medkits, he has that win condition, but now he needs to figure out where he's going to get the
Mora
damage
se heala,
from.
mora
With
se
no
heala.
choice but to scramble around, trying to get to the front side of the zone.
Mora se
He knows
heala,
there's
mora se
nobody that can
heala,
get
mora
him a
se
safe
heala,
and
ima-
easy target, so the medkits have to come
Ima
out
medkit.
now.
I dalje je top 16, niko ne umire. Niko ne umro Queasy, roba mrtvi ubio Queasya. Jebem li mu majku pičku. Queasy umro, eno ga dole. Thomas je živ.
But just one more med kit left. Thomas HD now playing alone.
Only a couple more players do need to go down. Storm Surge deactivates Thomas. You saw Queasy down below. He got knocked. He had no choice but to leave him by himself.
Thomas ima
We've
samo
seen some
jedan
big
build.
solo plays before, but now we need to see almost the impossible of a solo clutch. He gets the first down, but he cannot continue to go in. He takes his time, and now he's reappeared, re-emerged into this occasion. He's trying to use the nitros to go through these builds, and he's finally
Pucaj.
found a way to escape. Even with the elimination being
Da li
cleaned
ga
up,
ubi?
he can't reap any of the
Bravo!
rewards because of it.
Bravo, Thomas! Top 11. 20 jelta. Gotovo, umro. Gotovo umro.
No choice, can't take to any ticks. He falls down.
Loše, loše, Vuče, loše.
Queasy have to go again in the 5th and final game of the day, and if you look in the sky,
Queasy 40 na tabeli. Dobro, sad će malo da se popne. Ovo mu nije bio loš game, ali loše. 40 na tabeli ide, brate, u lower bracket sutra. Kviz idu u lower bracket sutra i to je problem, brat. Ne ovi da pobede, ne oni! Ne oni, gledaj šta luta, uzao majku mu jebem. Ubio Kuramu. Ubio Kuramu. Ima 3 medkita. Ima materijale koliko hoćeš. Hidžo je gore, jest. A, umiru. Umiru, ne. Ne umiru, ne ide zona na brdo. Ne umiru, ne ide im zona na brdo. Koje su srećare? Koje su srećare, majku im jebe. Ide im zona pored brda.
To play the heal off, it's all or nothing.
Yep, they claimed all that space down below. The sacrifice that Cammy took, you notice he gave
Ode Kami, ode Kami.
Condition is there. Down goes Cammy. Kaido scrambling around. Seti's
A ovo
still
ima
alive.
3 medkita, brat.
Hydro still holding on to the zone.
3 medkita ima. I Hidžo ima. O, Hidžovina! Hidžovina, nećete, majke vam ga nabijem. Nećete, vala. Nećete, vala.
The line, the last med kit already being used for Hydro. He's going to be clear out after this. One more in the inventory for Seti, but
ne, našo medkit! Našo Seti medkit, našo, ne!
There's 2 right there. 2 cactuses back to back.
Ne, našo medkit!
He finds more medkits.
Ne, našo je medkit, bre!
Seti and Cammy finally do it.
Ma daj, bre!
It's been done. We've been waiting for this moment and
Našo je. Našo je medkit na zemlji, spaso se, brate. Ćao, Marek. I hvala li grand finale. Seti, Kami, mrtvaci. Ma jedi bro, pečko, jebam ti Seti, Kami. Da vidimo ovo. Ovo je lower bracket, ljudi. Ovo je lower bracket, top 25 kvala, top 30 kvala, 216 je trenutno za kval. Da vidimo, jel ima naših, Asa i Jud su drugi, to nisu naši, tu Skarmi, Sangil Marius. Da vidimo, jel ima naših ovde. U top 30 nema niko naš, a top 30 kvala u Hris je 60. Hris je 60. i ima 174 poena. Što nije dobro uopšte, bio je 23. sa 0. Meč pre toga je bio 3. sa 5. Hris je 60. trenutno, treba mu da bude u top 30. Treba mu da bude u top 30, ako će u upper, mislim na upper. Da vidimo gde su naši. Da vidimo Hen i Grolc 110. Hen, boga mi, nije dobar. Da vidimo dalje, Evo su Shark Luka iz 8 gejmova ima 94 poena, a Jan i Čavki imaju 94 i 7 gejmova. Jan i Čavki umrli 2 na landu, 2 za redom na landu, a Shark Luka bio 11. sa 2 i 31. sa 1 malo pre. Shark Luka ima još 2 gejma. Koliko njih ostaje u loveru? Ja bre ne znam, valjda 25, brate, nemam pojma. Kako beš ide, valjda 25 ostaje. Ili tako nešto. Pojma nemam, valjda 25, ja ne znam. Tako bi trebalo, brate, ne znam. Ovamo, evo ga over. Over je odavno završio, ljudi. Over je odavno završio, over 10 gejmova, 80 poena, završio još od kad sam ja upalio stream, on je već pre toga završio. Jebik. Top 30, 216 ide u upper bracket, u loweru valjda ostaje 20, ja ne znam, 25. Ovdje bi trebali da ostanu, po tome Hristijan ima sutra lower, ako je 60. Ali ja stvarno ne znam, vidjet ćemo koliko, šta, kako. Ajmo sad da vidimo upper, da vidimo gde je kvizi. Evo, top 25, 76 poena. Top 25, 76 poena. Svizi Vanjak kvalali, Seti Kami kvalo, Mapi Kiro kvalali, Dande Puzo Hizix kvalali, Čapi Teni za sada imaju upper bracket, Mali Buća Merstaš imaju upper bracket. To je top 25. Po ovome Gujki Stormi imaju. Gujki Stormi 74. Zadnji game su nažalost umrli 41. Nažalost. Inače su odlični. A Kvizi se popeo na 27. mjesto. Kvizi je bio 10. sa 6 u ovom gameu zadnjem. I popeo se sa 40. na 27. mjesto. Kviz je blizu upper bracketa, vidjet ćemo. Za sutra. Ajmo mi da gledamo dalje. Aha, još minut. Nema mi Shark Luke u chatu da mi javi, jel ima kako se zove, jel Shark Luka ima danas paket loss, jel ima danas, kakav mu je ping. Nema ga u chatu nikako da mi javi. Da vidim šta je tweetao. Opet ima paket loss. Opet ima. Pa šta može da uradi, brate? Šta može da uradi sa tim paket lossom? Ništa, brate.
It came close. Hydro made it close, but in the end, Seti and Cammy were able to get their dub.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned when Cammy went down there and Seti was also just running in the storm, popping those medkits. He actually just about got them off as well. There was a couple of moments where I thought, actually, is he even going to get these medkits off with the storm ticking his health? But yeah, really nicely played from this duo. Squashes my prediction of them actually going through tomorrow, but I'm very happy for them getting a win. They haven't really done too much today. It hasn't really been the best day for them despite being uncontested. Yesterday they had a more consistent...
Šta može da uradi sa 100-150 pinga i 30% paket lossom? Ništa. Nije ni čudo, brate, što ima 90 pojena. Gujki Stormi imaju šansu za upper, brate. Kvizi također, naravno. Zadnji game Kvizi ima šansu, a tu i Skvi. Evo ga i Skvi, ali su se zaređali. 3 naša se zaređali, brate, odmah jedan iza drugog. 3 naša, Gujk Stormi 26, Kvizi 27, Skvi 28.
Made the heal off stretch that long for somebody against someone who had like 5 medkits is super impressive, right? So big ups to them again. Not the result they would have wanted though, right? Because in his head he's probably thinking I've done everything.
Blizu, svi blizu, vidjet ćemo. Zadnji game rešava sve. Zadnji game mora se odigra dobro.
He's in disbelief. He's thinking, how on earth have I not won that game? Like, and honestly, I'm there with him.
Zadnji game mora da se odigra dobro.
Well, you know what it was? Actually, Hyjo went to farm a brick at the top there because they actually ran out of materials when there was that final 2v2. Cammy and Seti had all the materials in the world down on low ground. Hyjo went to farm a brick inside of the storm, used about 50 HP on that. I think he may have popped a medkit or even just had to pop the medkit a little bit earlier because of that as well. And of course, I reckon if they didn't have to do that, if they had 5, maybe 10 extra bills, they might have just clutched it there at the end. And that's the difference that these end games can make.
Fine margins. Fine margins.
Such fine margins, but you know what? There's a margin that is looming for Thomas and Queasy. I don't know if we're able to see any more pages of the standings, but I believe that Thomas and Queasy were outside of the top 40 going into that game, and they are desperately fighting for the upper bracket. But this performance from Thomas, hopefully Mini Miner, will put them in better standing to make that upper bracket tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good shot from Queasy actually earlier on in this game.
I digo ga. I digo ga Kvizi.
With just 4 HP, reviving Thomas, which, as we know, paid off in dividends because, of course, Thomas managed to do a crazy solo clutch later on in the game, managed to stay alive for so much longer than he should have, and it's those extra placement points, those extra clutches that can make the difference in these lobbies.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think Thomas and Queasy, honestly, before we saw the sort of clutch moment where Queasy revived him and everything, I forgot they were playing in this lobby. I'll be real. Those are my guys, but I forgot they were even here. But it was good to see them get that clutch. They need a big game now. I think they're just outside top 25 to stay in the upper bracket for tomorrow.
Well, listen, that's the end game, boys, but can we talk about the situation with Surge Towers being built around cactuses that we're seeing every single game of the semi-finals? I think it's something that our duos have learned to do since the qualifiers, and it's really impacting how things are going down, Miniminer.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the lobby is turning into a whole skyscraper-filled city at the moment. There's just towers everywhere, and you can see exactly where those slurp cacti are, and then the surge bases that people are making in relation to the location of those slurp cacti. You can see there's a bit of a correlation here, Levin. Everyone wants to box up next to those slurp cacti because it just gives you unlimited HP.
I mean, yeah, when you look back in the past at different, you know, FNCS winning performances, a lot of the time you have players who have access to a lot of loot, right? And so they can get spare shields, and they usually will keep spare shields located somewhere near them so that they can go fight for Surge, use your spare shields. This is even way easier than that, right? And more people have access to it, right? You just have the cactus that gives you almost infinite shield as long as it recharges and you're still in the zone. And so, yeah, everybody's trying to get on that because it's one of the best ways to get Storm Surge in these lobbies.
It does make you a sitting duck, though, and it does mean that, you know, if no one does come to you, then you might actually start getting hit, no matter how much you try to heal up. So I want to see more fighting. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to see people resting by their cactus. But you know what? It's not up to me. I'm not a pro player. I'm just the one whose job it is to throw to the commentators. So I'm going to do that one last time for day 2 of the semi-finals. It's game number 5 with Takata and J-PR.
Time truly flies when you're having fun, Takata. The day has gone by so fast, and now we're in the last and final game of the day. We've talked about the big wins, but right now that 25th spot on the leaderboard, advancing to the upper bracket tomorrow, is 76 points. We got a big game ahead of us, so let's get right into it.
You said it yourself, Jacob. The cutoff, 76 points. Going into the previous match, it was Cammy and Seti that were on that cutoff, on that border line.
Idemo ljudi, zadnji game.
Now qualified with the victory.
A srećno mom bratu Luki.
Close to that borderline, Vidil Ryzen, Thomas HD, Queasy. A lot of these top tier duos that have not only yet to have qualified, but also might not even make it to the upper bracket if they don't do a good job in this last match.
There's a lot of pressure. Different types of pressure depending on where you're at in leaderboard, but the further down you are, you get pressure to get into that top 25. You get pressure to win that game, so you don't have to
Jebeno,
go
boga
to
mi, svi su na
tomorrow.
granici. I
Any
Skvi, i
team that
Gujk,
does not make it out of
i
lower
Stormy, i
bracket rounds
Kvizi, svi
today,
su na
your
ivici, jebot.
FNCS is over.
Jebeno, brat.
So for a lot of these teams, they got to take this extra chance knowing that they will go to tomorrow and try to run with it.
And for the players currently competing in the lower brackets, top 30, what they're looking for. We're going to focus here on the last opportunity to qualify directly to the grand finals through a victory.
Oh,
royale.
fight,
After
fight,
this, it's all
fight,
consistency,
fight.
Jacob. It's all
Ide fight.
consistency. And we'll see
Mada
if
mislim da
Merstash
Merstaš i
Malabuka
mali
have that in
buća
the early
čilaju
game.
u aperu.
This is one of those moments right here. Another contested drop right out of the gates. Noah and Aqua currently sit with 12 points. 46
Noah i
points
Aqua
on the
imaju
leaderboard.
12 poena.
And I feel like that's why you see them just take
Noah
a little
i
bit
Aqua
different of
imaju
approach, a little bit
12
slower,
poena.
not necessarily working
Vadi
away
ih
from the
samo
top
win.
down. They want to make sure they have the loot, they have the materials
Vadi ih
as
samo
quickly as
win,
possible
brat.
before they try to engage
Ili
on either
sutra
Malibu
lower
Mustache
break.
or the boss. And it already looks like Malibu and Mustache are luring that boss to the high ground.
Look, if I'm Malibuka Merstash here, I'm not letting that slide. This is the last match of the day. You know that Malibuka Merstash are basically almost guaranteed a qualification to the upper bracket. Meanwhile, Aqua Noah, they're not. Aqua Noah need that victory royale in this last match. So if I'm Malibuka Merstash, I'm taking this early game engagement no matter what after they're done looting, taking home that boss. So we'll have to see who ends up taking it, as now they're gonna regroup.
Yeah, quickly scrambling around. Mustache has a decent chunk of shields missing, but he got himself enough time so he could start to replenish. Aqua on the other side, he gets spotted.
Pa šta radiš, jesi normalan?
He goes skating to a knock all the way on the low ground, and that's a big elimination because now Aqua not only has the
šta radiš, debil?
and the mythic weapon, and he has a line of sight onto Malabuka as damage continues to pour out by Noah. Could be a big elimination and a chance to not let them survive. That way you don't have to worry about these juggernaut of a team later on in this game.
Gotov.
Yeah. I don't really know what you do if you're Malabuka here. That's going to be the unfortunate end for them in this final match of the day. The good news is with the amount of points they had, they should be guaranteed into the upper bracket tomorrow. So left
Prvo ovdje leđa nije čuvao. Drugo ovdje, brate, baca se dole umjesto da boksa. Umjesto da boksa, brate, on se baca dole. Kakva glupost, brate.
What they want now is that victory royale.
Yeah, they got to get close to it regardless. Because with 14 points, you need a high elimination game with a second place if you're not going for that win. So it's all or nothing for them as Dexy and Eclipse end up in an early game exchange towards the low ground. A little bit separated, which we've seen work out for teams of 4. The double angles might be fruitful for them as Eclipse is still trying to attack from above. Dexy not landing the shots necessary. Doesn't even get the piece control to go on over to his side. So they're still getting back down little by little, but that second angle that I was talking about really playing the difference here in this fight, but it's only going to be a trade.
Dexy now has been knocked down.
Reza, da li će da bude reza?
How's it going to end?
Reza, sad ćemo da vidimo.
We're going to get another 2v2.
Yep, revive for revive. Dexy obviously has the med kits, making sure to pass them around and build some extra space to make it that much safer for them to try to survive. On the other side, it doesn't look like they're replenishing too much HP or shields. So they have to be very, very careful how they approach the situation from here on out.
Are they going to continue with the engagement, though? Both players in a bit of a shock now, having lost their duo partner. Traded the revive back up, picking them up. And now they're kind of like, should we do that again? Should we fight again? Maybe we should just disengage. We've done a bit of damage. You know, we'll take our own paths and see each other later in the match.
So much action going down around the map. Oh, no, I know what's coming.
Onto Vico.
Oh, no. He just had no idea. Didn't hear it coming.
Necessary.
That's actually not a knock.
Oh.
That's not a knock. That's a full elim. And you know what that means? Vico and Flixi are out of this
Vico
game.
I Flixi out. Gotovi.
But just like some of our competition that we saw fall with Malabuka and Mustache, they have it locked in for another upper bracket appearance tomorrow.
Yeah, they're #1 on the leaderboard, not counting the players that already got the victory royales by far, too. 258 points versus 196 for second. They were dominating in terms of consistency. Unfortunately, won't be getting that golden ticket.
Separated towards the outside. Got to be careful in these prolonged fights, especially when the zone begins to pull away, because when you know you don't already have a lot of materials and you're kind of just trying to hold your spot, you're expending a lot of materials. And you can see there's less than 10 builds left. It's almost all or nothing for him. He's trying to change targets, catches opponents off guard, but they're not really taking the bait, at least not taking it just yet. And he's using this staggered position as a chance to try to fake him out yet again. He does have the crash pads if he does want to try and disengage, but I don't think he wants to leave without at least getting the reboot card first.
Doesn't have a lot of options either, to be fair, with 2 players surrounding him and only 2 builds. You just got to hit your shots here. I'm not sure if the opponents have that much materials or anything either, though, because they're not playing entirely aggressive. Medkit being popped. Being in the edge of storm as well, you can see there's another duo on Mount Olympus with both arrows looking directly at them. They know there's a fight going down, and they're just waiting to clean it up.
Maybe through all this, though, he looked pretty calm there when the player cam did show up. Doesn't look stressed. And for the Monk and Fireman, they're just going to kind of disengage on out. They at least got 1 elim, and this is how they were able to get it. Just the angles. He just ended up in a box that wasn't him. You saw the other side was quickly edited open. You got to be careful in those situations that you make space for yourself and you don't end up in your opponent's box.
Harune, Shark Luka je kvalo iz scene. Shark Luka, igra lower break.
Now in a surge base. I like this. This is looking like a efficient 20.
Guj kubio klauna.
You said yourself, block up.
Guj kubio klauna.
Nice little cone edits.
And they're near a couple nitro rings as well, and other cactuses on the ground. And you saw, like, during the games, they break down the surge bases relatively close to a lot of the cactuses. This is exactly why. Just waiting for a lot of those opportunities where the teams, whether it's a south zone or not, do rotate towards the south side of the map, or at least as close to a cactus as possible. So, I mean, if you set up one of those bases in the center of all the cactuses, I feel like you're going to have the best shots at getting surged.
True. True. We'll switch over to a part of the map that doesn't have cactuses, as now these players battle it out. But with the amount, there's 3 different duos looking at this engagement right now. Kiddo Nebs, the first 3 games for this duo, they got 10th place exactly in all 3 matches. Unfortunately, the most recent one, they fell earlier. We're not able to keep up with that consistency. Seeing that now it is the last match, hopefully they can make something happen. But against Chapentini, it's not going to be easy.
A team that kind of loves to fight. Just waiting for any opportunity, whether they take the fight to you or you jump onto them. It's never going to go easy. I feel like they're just kind of maybe trying to fake it out. Nebs is farming up. They do have their eyes, and it does look like Teeny and Chap going to use those dashes, maybe mix it with some nitro. They're stacking themselves in the zone, but for good cause, because they just want to make it so far out of their line of sight, so that way they can eventually start to rotate in, and they don't have to worry about too many teams.
Rotate's going to begin. They have the River of Sticks, so they can use those dashes to do it more efficiently. Midix and Yasin.
Desitoše, kako ide loše, brate.
Gonna get cracked here by, I believe,
Loše ide, svi su negde na granici, u upper bracketu. U lower bracketu naš Shark Luka i danas ima paket loss i danas vrlo teško. 2 dana, dva puta lower bracket. Šteta za njega, oba puta, brate. Paket loss je, jebi ga, brate.
And they're not just trying to do that. They're trying to do
Vendis, pozdrav.
They're ready to fight for their spot, fight for their surge, but they have elevated themselves so far above the Nitrodrome. They're hoping to see as many teams rotate as possible. So I just kind of want to hope for them, give them the benefit of the doubt that their surge so far at this stage of the game is A-okay, but
Jacksone.
Threshold is when it actually pops off in zone 6 and 7. I don't think anybody's going to be comfortable in zone 3.
It's crazy how many of the top duos have gotten eliminated so far. I mean, the two duos with the most eliminations, Merstash Malibuka, Vico Flixi, they're both out of this game.
Ne znam, bre, Toše juče imao paket loss. Loše odigrao, danas opet paket loss. Svidio šta je Peter Bot juče uradio? Ne, bre. Ne pratim Ameriku, uopšte niti me interesuje, bre. Šta je bilo? Šta rade ovi naši Evropljani, brate?
In the last match of the day. Kind of unfortunate.
Sariga ubio lika na 200 metra ke kempu u bušu.
There's too many of them playing for just straight consistency, and they just didn't even see it come. And luckily, he was able to kind of create some distance while they were in the sky. His teammates there trying to alleviate some of the pressure.
Nije cheat, a? Nije cheat uopšte.
No confidence building moves just yet. But either way, Hydro and Kato still
Nije cheat, jeli? Kome zove, brate?
Nitro saved flip
Zove me neko na Facebook.
Go fast enough for his fire and actually
čekaj da vidim šta hoće. Sin me zove.
Hydro, great job of escaping that box before his opponents could piece him up. Now, a bit more cautious on the angles he's taking, looking to see if he can get a bit of real estate, replace some walls without getting fully boxed up.
A little bit of a prolonged fight, which I don't see too many teams rotating in this direction, whether they hear the noise or not. The zone is moving towards the north, maybe a little bit of a western lean on it. And that's why they're feeling the confidence to continue to try to move over on this position, take multiple angles before they finally disengage on out. It's not worth their time anymore, especially the way that team down below is playing. They're kind of turtling back in their boxes, saying, hey, if you want to fight us, you got to come to us. And that's their territory. They probably have a couple boxes, ramps, cones built. So if Hydro and Kaido were to rotate in that direction, it'd be a pretty risky situation to put yourself in.
Take a quick look at what Snazy and Podesai have been doing by Mount Olympus. Oh, dangerous 3-2-1. On Radion, I don't know if Pred is gonna make it out or not.
Not yet, at least. Some
North zone, Jacob.
Yeah.
It's happened
this time around. So you think storm surge thresholds are going to be a little bit lower in this match, or still just as high, but only for certain teams that you see staggered in the south, still in the zone?
I think it's going to be lower overall. If the average was 200 more than yesterday, I'll say compared to day one of semifinals, I think it's probably going to be at least the same as it was yesterday, maybe like 50 or 100 more, because people are a bit more aware of the surge strats. We'll see. Maybe we can get an update on how it looks as the game goes on. But for now, Snazy and Podesai have secured the bunker, and they're going to continue on with their rotate.
Just the two floppers don't allow me to build confidence for them. They kind of survive. Even if they do make it towards the zone on the other end, they're going to be missing a lot of HP, and then they're obviously going to use the floppers to get it back, which means they're going to have an empty inventory slot. Unless, of course, they have med kits, maybe some colas on the other side. And actually, Vidil and Ryzen, you know, we talked about where they're at on the leaderboard, which isn't as bad as we've seen some of the other players today. 24th place. At least they're giving themselves a chance to be inside of the bubble. And you're noticing a huge switch up, right? They went to Brutal Beachhead. They went Sandy Steps. They're going all around the map. But now this time around, they're getting coached a little bit by Veno, who's moved on over to NA. So they're taking the spot and the game plan that you'd see Clix and Veno use, and they're trying to incorporate that here in the last and final game of the day on EU.
Will it work out? Time will tell as Festroki and Raban now made it back into zone. So many players boxed up on buildings that have already been built around Reckless Railways. You can use that to refarm your brick while also getting a decent position to have line of sight of the other players in the surrounding area. Amon still in with a bit of a ways to go to make it into zone. Even with the duos who are kind of boxed up on the snowy mountain, they will be blocking them, taking shots at them, but it should be pretty doable.
There's another team located nearby. But again, with the zone continuously pulling north, a lot of these teams will have already went towards the north. So it's not in some, maybe the next zone, it continues to get more and more staggered on the south side of the zone. So timing is going to get more and more crucial. We're going to have less window to make any bit of mistakes on that push, as Voltiax is still trying to stay alive. They know he's around here somewhere, as Almos did get his teammate back. We saw the struggles he went through earlier on in this game, and with the Nitros, they're making it easy to move into the box. Voltiax defends himself once. He actually goes back to back. They break into the box. A ramp separates them into two separate 1v1s, and Voltiax, here's your crown, king.
Okay, Voltiax, I see you. I see you. Issue is now, Jacob. Look, actually, I don't see too much of an issue. 4 medkits. He could technically just play the zone here with the amount of medkits he has. I don't know if he actually has the reboot card to bring his duo back. If he hasn't done it already, I doubt he does, but what a 1v2.
Wow, first shots.
Disgusting.
2 players, and all they were able to get is 2 shots off, while he fired, what, 3, 4 shots in that same exact fight? Hey, that's what really separates our players at the top level versus anybody else. And he even has his spot in the upper bracket tomorrow solidified, but was now the chance to get his teammate back. Hey, we could see a second chance at life here.
Crosshair placement. You can see how important it is,
Jesu
especially
živi
with shotguns.
Kvizije, živ guj.
You connect those big shots. Wow, Aqua and Noah 749 above. We were talking about how Storm Surge might not be as
Veljko ode negdje u sred kapa. Blago njemu pametno, brat.
That could be why, but
Blago
in
njemu.
the meantime, you have players like
Milina jedna, a?
who are still 34 below, although they do have 0 eliminations.
Ooh, active surge. Is he going to get it off in time? Yes, he is. Barely off in time. Raban and Fastroki are on the other side, quickly backing up, making space for themselves. So a push like this isn't going to have as much success, or at least as much as you'd think it is. Luckily for a lot of players in this situation, Storm is going to momentarily deactivate, but only for the next couple of seconds as the zone continues to close. Desi's still getting attacked on the other side. Him and T-Chips got to rethink that situation. Meanwhile, with that damage just newly acquired, they're going to use that as an opportunity to rotate. They know it's a far rotation for them to make, and timing is of the essence.
Crash pad needed to put to good use. You got to be careful though. Hydro Kaido. Are they going to get themselves into an engagement with Fast Strokey here? He does not need the damage. What they want is this campfire. Kaido was so close to making his first FNCS Grand Finals appearance in the last game when they had height. Unfortunately, they were not able to secure the victory royale. So far, every single duo that has secured a VR and made it to Grand Finals are returning finalists. So if that continues throughout the end of the day, this will be a first for the FNCS. So who knows, Jacob? Maybe some underdogs will take home the match here.
Opa.
Oof. That's gonna do it for Huddy and Kovacs.
Kovacs i Kuti dead, ovi su i dalje 37 below. I dalje 37 below.
Still have their FNCS dreams alive. Hedra and Kerwa just trying to take advantage of anybody climbing up this mountain. The 37 below the threshold. So even though they're not in zone, they know they have a list of things they need to do before they find their spot comfortably there. And another max pull for everybody on this side of the map, which might be a blessing for some, knowing that everybody here is going to have to rotate. And before that happens, they're trying to take the fight to them, but forced to reload at the worst possible time. His opponent jumps over and lands the first couple of shots, drops him into the box. T-Chips takes a fight out of his opponent. Hedra now on the other side. He's just trying to break his way in, but they're still 6 below the threshold. He gets a shot on the knocked body, but that's going to get him above that storm surge. Even with 1 HP, he's just trying to survive.
Jedan health, ne može da preživi nikako.
Hedra drops him into the palm of the hands, takes him out, sends him back to the lobby. And luckily for him, Storm Surge deactivates because you saw him was still 59 below that threshold.
Will he be able to stay up though? Pressure is being applied. If you look at the bottom right in the mini-map, look how many duos are on the way to the zone. Hedra gonna have to make it alone. Cool in the zone as well still. We know he has 4 medkits or had.
Trebaju vam 2 game, 25 kila. Dobro, dobro. To je teško.
Clean up here, an elimination or 2.
Baš teško. Storm je umro. Noreli ubio Stormija. Valjda je Guik živ, valjda je Guik živ. Placementi su krenuli.
Opportunity, and they're going to be able to get the loot as well. There's not too many teams on this portion of the map, so it's not going to be too risky for them to go in, get the loot that they want, and even reposition afterwards.
Look how they're able to capitalize on these positions, like you said, from afar, not risking themselves.
Evo ga, Kvizi živ.
Tags, and even with the refresh, that is going to set them up
Kvizi ubio Kidova.
Rest of this late game with now 7th zone coming to a close. We'll see what side of the map these players are going to have to rotate to. It's going to be northeast. And now shortly after, the moving zones are going to commence.
And I kind of check it out right now. 9 of the 20 teams inside of the bubble are down.
Tomas i Kvizi chillaju. Ne vidim Gujka nigdje. Storm je umro.
To really rise to that occasion, Queasy and Thomas are going to be one of them. To start this game, the threshold was 76 points. So even though they're at 82, you got to believe that threshold rise along with it. Placement points are now beginning to set in. They're 141 above the damage threshold, 42 players left alive. If they fall down below Storm Surge here, they're the worst possible time.
Shark Luka ponovo ima paket loss. Daj Bože da vina, brate. Daj Bože vuče. Ne vidim Gujka.
Still have a ways to go. The job is not finished. They're actually just getting started.
That threshold actually moved up to around 80 points so far, give or take, maybe even a little bit more. Stacey and Podesai, 500
Sad će dođe Skype polako.
We've seen him make it very, very far into a couple of these games this weekend so far. Better late than never, though, as Tarps gets aimed out. He goes down. They immediately beeline for that loot. And that's something that we've seen throughout the weekend. Those builds, being able to just stretch them so far into this end game means so much in this situation.
Look at this, Jacob. We talked about it earlier. Aqua and Noah, they need the victory royale to qualify. They want to get that ticket directly to the grand finals. If they go down with less than 102 points, they won't even make the upper bracket. So they want to play for that win. This is why they're holding on to the high ground so aggressively, and they need to make something happen.
I feel like the only way they can even get the points is through a big win or some big elimination, second place. So Aqua and Noah definitely have their job cut out for them today, and it's looking good so far. They've elevated themselves well above everybody else, but a max pull means they're going to have to give it up momentarily and retake it later on in the same rotation.
Ovi mogu da vinaju, vuče.
Looking incredibly healthy.
Ovi
307
ludaci.
the mountain goats here on the side of the ridge, but they got to be careful because now all these players are going to be building up by them. They don't want to get trapped in a sticky situation as Thomas HD Queasy have made it up the hill, but they're 32 below.
Yeah, the biggest adjustment they made is elevating themselves. It's usually when we see them go down in the earlier games, they get caught in that low ground and all of that destruction, and now they have some
below su ne valja ništa.
Threshold from 38 to 45. Somebody's hot on the heels. There is opportunities all around for them to land the shots, but with zone moving, they don't really have the time. They have to quickly peek through, and there's goes a couple misses, and that's the type of situation that you're in if you're Thomas and Queasy. But the flank comes in, a monster of a shot onto Thomas, backing him down, separating him from Queasy. The struggles will continue, but can they survive it this time around?
Meanwhile, Kaido looking to make his first FNCS Finals appearance. They were close in the last match, but now he has to pick up Hijo. No medkit in the inventory, just the Nitro Splash and a Flowberry Fizz to make it to zone.
Umiru, stigo s 10 health. Stigo s 10 health, brat.
Squeaks his way in. He got himself a little crevice to try to stagger, reload the weapons, use as much of the fizz as he can because he knows the zone is on his back. But now it's go time, trying to survive. There's a couple of teams right in front of him, even with the Nitro. He does bump into the wall just a little bit, and there's opportunities all around that he doesn't take advantage of, and he gets dropped for it.
Look above though in the
Queasy na low groundu. Queasy sa ovim kvalo upper. Queasy ako ne vina game, Queasy je kvalo upper za sutra.
Trying to drop them down. They're looking down below, seeing where they can connect to, seeing who they can take their shots at to claim this position for longer. 41 builds is what Noah has.
There's a couple teams still in this game that are on the bubble. And these guys can really play disruption to any of those teams that are at least looking to make it to tomorrow. Chaps now in their line of sight. Him and Teeny, that's going to be their biggest threat because
Chappy 10 is second high.
And if you include tomorrow, even more that they've threatened for the high ground late in the games and won it.
Be careful. Chari, though, gets knocked down. Gura's left alone. Just one elim on the board. 18 HP. One tick and he'll be at 8-2 is what he can withstand. Be careful.
Za malo da ubije Čapa, brat. Za malo da ubije Čapa, brat, u trku.
Game plan in his run here toward the end. Gary's still doing wonders here. Has another Nitro. That one's going to have to be used instantly if he's looking to stay alive. And he runs into Nathan, who takes him down with ease. But one solo for another. You're still in that tough spot, especially when you're running out of builds. You don't have HP, and there's multiple duos right in front of you. But Shaco's towards the outside. He's outside of the bubble. He needs to finish strong here, but he goes down in 7th place. Is that enough points as Teeny and Chap for the high ground? Chap falls. Teeny now left by himself. Mirrored situation from the earlier games so far today.
Noah and Aqua cannot give this up. A second place will not be enough to make it to the upper bracket. They need to take home the victory royale, but has Teeny just stopped them from doing so?
Teeny solo, bre.
Aqua, Teeny playing bracket buster, even though he has his spot secured. He is ending dreams of everybody down below. There is going to be one strong duo.
Teeny solo, 7 buildova.
Aqua's there, Noah's there as well with Aqua going down. Teeny, he's just trying to pressuring him. Everything comes crashing down. He still has the dashes to save himself. Builds to hold on to the high ground, but he runs into the other solo. Dashes above yet again. Teeny just going all out, and he runs.
Pozdrav, Muksić.
All damage is real. No. Top 2, and it's down to a 1v1.
Vina, Noreli, vina.
The second place will not be enough for the
Ne, nije vino, Noreli. Dixie je klip svinali, ne seri, bre. Nije vino, Noreli.
That's the big question, because second place, they needed a certain number of eliminations if they were to make it all the way. But we know that did. Dexy and Eclipse, and welcome to the grand finals. Even this is one of those teams, they were letting their frustrations be known.
Gledaj šta je uradio.
Down 2 games in a row, but they finally made those adjustments.
Al ga sačeko, brate. Lepo ga sačeko, pampo ga i čao.
What a way to finish it off. Our tickets to the grand finals through the victory royales have been booked, but so much is left to look at. I want to see how the leaderboard affected. Did Aqua and Noah make it? They were so close, but there's only
Pitanje je da li su Aqua i Noah uspeli da uđu u upper bracket. Vidjet ćemo šta će tu da bude, a sad ćemo da vidimo tabelu. Kako Luka odigrao loše, brate moj, opet paket loss, opet paket loss.
Getting the golden ticket mini minor. What did you think of that endgame?
Yeah, they've done it before. I mean, it's a team that have got a victory royale in this format. Lever mentioned it earlier on. They managed to clutch up. I think it was last season when they got a nice win, and Dexy actually predicted it. I don't think anyone could have predicted that there at the end.
Nije mi jasno, brate. 2 dana lower bracket, 2 dana 30 paket loss. Baš sad paket loss i baš sad ping. I strašno, brate, strašno. Kako se čovek ovdje izvuko, brate. Kako se ovdje čovek izvuko i vinao game. Neverovatno 10 health.
Has game-winning potential that has just been slept on. They did it in this format last season. A bit more impressive style, right? It was a bit cooler when they did it last major, but I don't think they care about how cool it is. They're in grand finals at the end of the day, and that's what's most important.
I'm really curious to know who did make it to the upper bracket, though, as well, to have the best chance of a shot at the grand finals next weekend, because there are a few jurors who are looking like they're in trouble going into that game. One of those jurors was Thomas and Koji. They managed to work them way up to 27th place going into game number 5-11. We're still waiting to find out if they made it to uppers tomorrow.
I mean, yeah, the big thing with them was obviously the sort of resurgence in the last 2 games, right? And
ne motam, brate, imam mašinu. Ubacim duvan unutra, stegnem, stavim filter, povučem i to je to. Ne motam baš ono da je motano, brate, nego pravi filter i prave cigare. Razumeš, prava cigara izađe. Original. Daj bre da vidimo tabelu, ne di govna, maj. Bro, ali ima i električna ona, brate, ubaciš duvan unutra, ubaciš dosta duvana i ubaciš 3 filtera ili 6 filtera i samo stisneš dugme električna i samo izbacuje cigare, brate. Ali nemam poverenja u to, brate. Ne napuni cigare dovoljno. Ovo, brate, ispadne original, pravo. Jer ja znam tačno koliko duvana da stavim. Ja tačno znam koliko duvana da stavim da bude original cigara.
Yeah, man.
Well, why don't we see? Why don't we see right now? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know this
Ajmo da vidimo, ajmo.
So let's take it away, boys.
Evo ga.
And there we go, landing straight on the page. No Ryan Aqua, even though they managed to get second, they've just missed out. But in 20
Norelli nije uspeo. Quiz je 24. uspeo. Gujk nije uspeo.
They're in with a good shot of making grands, where we would say they belong minimum.
Ljudi, Vadil je uspeo sa Rezonom 23. Quiz je 24. Artskill Šajkoz 25. na granici i Raxi Pix nisu, Norelli Aqua nisu uspeli. Gujk nije uspeo, upper bracket za sutra, sa Zbanaten također. Naravno, čoda i... Aco, desi, Aco? Mnogo jeftinije, čoda. Kutija cigara, 10 eura. A da kupiš, brate, celo ono pakovanje da imaš za, na primjer, 7 dana, 39 eura, 40 eura. Desi, Aco. Evo ko je hvalo sve danas. Svizi Vanjak, Dixi Eclipse, Seti Kami, Mapi Kiro i ovaj Dande Puza. Oni su hvalali preko vinova. Viko prvi, Čap drugi po poenima, Giras i Cherry treći, ovaj Kajto i Hidžo i tako dalje i tako dalje. Kada je roster pleki. od
think
svog
we could,
duhovnica.
honestly. I was expecting a lot more of the bigger names to have already qualified through. This is quite uncharacteristic for us here on EU. It seems like usually we have a lot of the smaller names, a lot of the lesser known names that are qualifying through on the final day. But this is going to be a big test for these teams.
Super, brate, odlično.
For these teams, because some of them might not have found themselves in this position before. So putting it all on the line for tomorrow, 3 games as well in each upper bracket and lower bracket. It's not going to be easy. So there's
Za
a chance
cen
there's an
roster,
opportunity
prvo
for
moraš
some-
znaš da se ponašaš normalno.
Of course we're gonna see some upsets, man. That's what it's all about. Like, I think when you look at how things have been so far this season in EU, it's been, you know, clearly a changing of the guard, it feels like at times. So I'm sure
Naravno, Čoda, naravno, polako.
Yeah, I do wonder if one of those upsets will be Koji and Thomas, but hopefully they can take a look at their early games, sort out that surge, and put on a show tomorrow, because we know Thomas in particular is
Mora,
capable
Čoda, ne
of
možeš
it.
se mučiš toliko.
Unfortunately, though, boys, that's all we've got time for this evening. Thank goodness we've got more Fortnite action coming your way tomorrow, and of course, North America is coming up.
Dobro, to nas ne interesuje, interesuje nas sad ovdje. Znači, top 25 trebalo je 94 poena. Ovdje vidimo tabelu, znači, evo. To je to. Gujik nije uspeo za malo. Skvi nije uspeo i on je bio blizu. Umro je zadnji game na landu, šteta. Kviz je uspeo, ljudi. Upper bracket za sutra. Kviz je uspeo. Norel i Aqua nisu uspeli. Šteta za Gujika i Stormy, odigrali su fenomenalno. Šteta je od zadnji game 23 sa 2. Taman na placementima i ovdje su umrli 41. Šteta za Gujika i Stormija, baš šteta. Ali dobro. Ajmo sad da vidimo upper. Ovaj lower bracket, ovo je upper. Znači 20 odavde. Znači 20 odavde. Gledaj ja šta radim. 20 odavde. Ovih 20 i ovamo 30. Lower, jest. Top 30 ovdje je bilo 300 poena. Sky Scroll prvi, Pavlo Vingu Bevis, Tusi Karmi, Lunex Mone, Asa Yu, Truli Sangil Di Marius, Polish Gentleman Hellfire QB, Vit Luša, X-Wiz Floki, strašno, brate. Merain Kaid. Pozdrav 100 eura, pozdrav Niko. Dobro, Niko, dobro. Da vidimo dalje. Loki je kvalo, Firehunter kvalo, Tvi Jakey kvalali, Destro Piros kvalali, Akira kvalo, Tripen Fredoxi kvalali i ovi su kvalali. Da imamo ko nije kvalo, ja mislim da ne vidim nigde. Riki nije kvalo, ne vidim nigde. Scrap i Skrill nisu i Hristijan nije. Hristijan nije, evo kako je odigrao Hristijan, 14-7. 21 sa 11, brate. 21 sa 11. Ovdje su mogli da vinaju i da naprave posao. Hristijan nije, nažalost, u upper bracket otišao, nije u upper bracketu Hristijan, nažalost. Jebika. Da vidimo naši kako su završili. Šteta za Shark Luku. Evo su Hen ni blizu. Hen i Grolc samo 134 poena iz 10 gameova. 47, 35 i 40. Zadnja 3 gejma Hena i Grolca nisu uspjeli. Jani Čavki 134 poena, uopšte nije loše. Evo ovdje umrli na landu, ovdje bili 5 sa 3, odličan game, pa umrli na landu, pa 19 iz 2 i 19 iz 1. Jani Čavki solidno, sasvim solidno. Kenny Grolc razočaravajuće. I Shark Luka, brat moj, 10 gameova, 102 poena. Nije se obrukao, brate. Sa tim paket losom, evo ovdje bio 11 iz 2, 31 iz 1, 26, sve na placemente. Pogledajte ovo. Sve na placemente. 26, 22. 102 poena, moj brat Shark Luka. Biće to bolje, brate. Vratio se GOAT. To je najbitnije, se vratio GOAT. ne može da se bori protiv interneta, šta će? Kad imaš 30% paket losa, to je premnogo. Sve ti smeta, sve kasniš svuda. Šta ćeš, jebi ga? Šteta. Šteta. Šteta, brate. 100 pinga, on ti uzme zid kad hoće. On ti radi sve šta hoće, ti ne možeš da reaguješ brzo ko on. Čitini gripi katastrofa, 106 poena. Katastrofa. Šteta. Šteta za Shark Lukenzija. Ali jebika.